And I'm back again. Hello, Norilla, coming at you. All right, so just did the Microsoft video. There were a few things I left out. For example, um, trying to remember. um, let's see. I like. Oh, I wrote it down. Um, the fact that the controllers are backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X. I like that. I like the fact that you don't have to buy new controllers. It's cool if you're offering new controllers with new features, PS5. That's cool, but you still should be able to use the old controllers. That's just consumer friendly and make good sense. So I like that fact. Also, if I were, like big on Microsoft, Xbox, whatever, I would be totally all about them buying up studios so that they can get more exclusive content, or even buying up GameStop because GameStop was pretty much just doing a horrible job for but just because Microsoft's buying them doesn't necessarily mean things are going to be better. It just means they're not going to go away. They'll probably just turn into another type of entity. But again, it's just all about the Microsoft ecosystem and them making sure that their hand stays in your pockets, or that your funds stay in their pockets. However you want to look at that. But yeah, but that's that for that. I want to get back to the video where I showed from gosh, the game person, Game Genie or something. Nah, I don't remember. Anyway, I'll look it up and put it down in the link. But the video that I posted that showed all of the different consoles and the years everything came out and the number of sales. So going back to that, it was interesting to check history and find out, as I was mentioning before, how the PlayStation 2 was already out when Microsoft came out with their first Xbox. So they were playing catch up, but then they jumped the gun and put out 360 before the PS3 came out. I'm not sure how many months or if it was even a whole year, but it was a good amount of time before the PS3 came out. And when the PS3 came out, they pretty much did everything wrong not everything, but they did a lot of things wrong. And if you check out Mystic, he did a whole documentary on the PS3 and how and why it happened the way it happened. So their technology and the way they had did the PS3 and the way the CEO and head, or the person in charge of it, who was compared to Steve Jobs or whatever, as far as how his mind worked and how he was about innovation and things. He had a really good, they really wanted that PlayStation 3 to be the end all be all for a home entertainment system. Blu-ray was still a new thing. And that was at the time when Xbox went with the DVD instead of the Blu-ray. And as we all know, Blu-ray won in the end. I was like, once I saw Disney went with Blu-ray, I knew Blu-ray was going to be the winner instead of the HD. I think was the alternative. And so they also had this special proprietary technology that they were working with IBM and some other companies on, and so it made it harder for developers to make the games for the PS3 because it meant that they had to learn this new system. And when that was presented to them, they had already had the Xbox 360 stuff already and had already been working on it. So imagine having, from I'm not sure the exact time, but imagine what I think they said was like a year. Imagine having a whole year of developing for another console, another platform, that's in a way that you already know how to do it. It's not a new technology. You're developing games the way you know how. And then Sony comes up and they're like, coming late to the game with the PS3, and they're like, yeah, we want you to make these games, but we got this new technology you got to learn first. And like, what? And so the sad thing is, even though the technology that they had would ultimately would give you a better end result product wise, and you can do some things on the PS3 that you wouldn't be able to do on the 360. But to have to learn it like another language just wasn't going to happen. So it happened on the exclusives in the Sony studios. That's why you saw all the great games come out on the PS3, which the exclusives and the games that really took advantage of the system and that new technology and that new language and development, that harder learning curve, the ones that took advantage of it, those are the ones that made the PS3 stand out. And now looking back on the PS3, that's where so many great games came from. They were generational games. Um, so, so, um, so that was literally that, and a lot of marketing changes. Again, check out the documentary by Mystic on YouTube. But you know, it really goes through all the things that happen and why they happen, and it shows that how at the very tail end of the console cycle, they actually etched out and beat out sales wise the Xbox 360. Now, of course, some things that were not necessarily mentioned would be like the red light ring of death that Microsoft had to deal with, or the other issues, the heating issues that even the PS3 had to deal with. But also, man, that was the time that for sure Sony was selling everything for a loss. It was like that first $600 PS3 was like a loss of like $240 for each console or something like that. So, you know, obviously as they got to the tail end of that console lifespan and they had dropped the price to what, $300 or something, like it was half the price and slimmer, you know, lesser of what the big boy was, they used to call it. That was probably what, you know, that and the marketing and other factors definitely helped them pull out a win in that. But again, what was interesting looking at that chart was that Sony, by and large, are over 100 million more consoles sold than even Nintendo. And Nintendo is quite a ways ahead of Microsoft as far as consoles sold. So when it comes to that market share, that's kind of why I think, and again, here's another example of what cracks me up when I have an opinion and I understand a certain amount of information, and then I find out after I do my research that my opinion has not only been proven and validated, but it's supported with even more information. I didn't even know. I thought, just looking at the game sales, that Nintendo was in first place. I thought that because of how much they were selling with the Switch, with the Wii, and with the games of 20 million, 30 million, or whatever, that they were in first place. No. Now, it depends on, again, it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at console sold, it's Sony. Because the PS2 is the number one selling console of all time. And then they didn't do bad with the PS1, and they didn't do bad with the PS3, which still beat out Microsoft, and they didn't do bad with the PS4. It did just as good as the PS1. So when you add all that up, it is what it is. So, but here's an interesting thing. So with that market share, I think I was going to say something about Nintendo, but anyway, with that market share that Sony has, that is one of the main factors of why when you know we talk about Microsoft possibly winning and selling more consoles, you're just not paying attention to the facts, not opinion, to the facts. Now, is it possible for Microsoft to outsell Sony on this new console generation? Yes, it is. It's definitely possible. Is it likely? No, it's not likely. Because, again, you're talking about the last console doing more than double. And that the PS3, where people thought they lost against the 360, the fact that PS3 edged out and won, and when you look at why they won, and that's what I wanted to touch on because of seeing the documentary. When you look at why the PS3 won in the end, it was because of their exclusives. It was because of the games. It was because of the content and the quality of the first-person exclusive games. So again, So even after all the negative that Sony hit and all the bad stuff that happened with the PS3, the product, the game, which is what all this is about, the games, is what came out on top of what caused them to win in the end. So, so they kind of ran that wave into the PS4. Um, I don't like when I got my blue screen back there. Get the blue screen off. All right. So, um, yeah. So it is yeah. So anyway, it's definitely just something to consider when looking at what could possibly happen in the future. Because again, even with the Bethesda purchase, even with whatever other studio, I'm hearing that there is another studio that Microsoft has purchased, and we'll see. Maybe one or two studios that Microsoft has purchased. Um, you know, Again, it's I'm starting more and more to think that these moves that Microsoft's doing to keep everybody in their ecosystem and keep money flowing into them, into their company and ecosystem, and going so far as to just try to almost like give away an Xbox Series X by saying, hey, we even just take payments, even though in the end you're paying more, but just to basically give it away for free. Um, that's quite interesting. A lot of things I've seen out there, I'm hearing and seeing. I'm sure some of you guys are seeing the same thing, where they're talking about Japan doesn't like Sony PlayStation anymore, and Microsoft Xbox Series X is sold out in Japan. It's like, okay, why that affects me in America, I have no idea, but okay. Um, and maybe that's why Sony did the hands-on in Japan. Maybe to like save face there or try to fix what they've messed up over there. I don't know, but but again, it's just going to be interesting to see going forward in this new generation of consoles what's going to happen. Um, it's just going to be interesting to see. So. Yeah, the so-called console war. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm talking both sides or whatever. Just putting information out there that's already there. I'm really just talking about it. Um, it's gonna be interesting to see if Microsoft Xbox Series X can close that gap with consoles purchased, and it's possible this time. I also think it's possible. So here's some of the reasons why it could be very possible. One, they're touting that they have a better system. Two, the fact that they're willing to give it away with the renter center type, make payment plans. You can take it, but just make payment plans. The cheaper digital console, and because there are a lot of people who only buy digital games now, that could be appealing to them. I thought, and I thought that there were more people that still purchase physical copy games, and that probably is true. But when I saw a very popular YouTuber that says he's never bought a physical game, that was alarming. That was alarming. Now, maybe he's a special breed, and he probably is, because he said in looking at the PlayStation 5 launch titles, only two games interested him. And out of those two games that interested him, one was the racing game, I believe, and the other was 2K21. And I was like, wow. Like, like a lot of people all say Demon Souls doesn't appeal to me, so I get that. But Miles Morales Spider-Man doesn't appeal to you? Like, and not a first person shooter, but a racing game and a sports game. That's a different breed. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily that he doesn't like those other games, but just the fact that he said those are the only ones that interested him. So that's so again, so somebody who has never bought a physical game, wow. Again, that just lets you know where we are. So that's why in 10 to 15 years you could possibly see the end of physical games, because at 10 to 15 years on his life he'll be probably in his 30s going on 40 or something like that, because I imagine he's a young guy. So who knows? But you know, sometimes when it comes to the demographics of people and tradition and things like that, it takes a while for the shift to change completely. So we might have at least another 20 years on physical copy games. Maybe. We'll see. Because I honestly, I'm looking at myself and I'm just wondering, like I said in my other video, is it time for me to retire from gaming? At least as far as the new stuff. Because if it's going to go digital, all digital, I'll probably buy out. I'll probably just be like, I'm good. I'll play the old stuff and just be good with that. Just personal preference. And hey, at some point, you know, at some point things change. So we'll see. We'll see. Because man, even in this, like this is the first time that I'm even putting myself in a position where I'm getting a console on launch day. I don't even remember getting the PS4 when I got it. I don't even remember what the circumstances were. The PS3, I probably got close to release because I did get the first one, the big boy, the 60 gig, and I did get the 360 Elite, but the 360 had been out for a while. But the Elite had just came out, so I had that, and but again, I never remember, I never had a console when they first came out, so this is the first for me. And being in tune and hearing all the hype and all the fanboy bash and this, that, and the third, it's kind of putting a bad taste in my mouth, and it's making my excitement for the new console to go like this, to like go up and down, because it just I don't know. It just sucks to have to hear all the negative. You hear the positive, then you hear all this negative. So I'm gonna speak on that. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video because it's getting so long, and I'm gonna come at you with another. And again, I'm just pushing out content, the conversation. If you find it interesting, let me know. If not, then we'll keep it moving. But talk to me, ask me questions, tell me what you want to hear. All right.